the fuck? Spare bedroom tax? Fuck off. Nah, I fucking bought my house with my hard-earned working money. If you can't keep up with your fucking housing crisis, that's your fault. Don't be punishing me for having a spare bedroom and taxing me on that shit. You can eat fucking... Apologies, but I'm not paying tax. I'm not getting fucking tax on having a spare bedroom. That's utter bullshit. There would be literally no point on buying a house.
A tax on spare bedrooms. Most common property is 3 bedrooms. It may encourage shrinking families and empty nesters to downsize, freeing up supply.
So now the government is floating the idea of a bedroom tax. Apparently, if you have a spare room in your house, you're part of the housing crisis. So let's get this straight. People can barely keep their head above water. So what's the government's solution? I'll slap a tax bill on you. Forget the housing crisis, let's just tax Aussies for not having a roommate. This isn't policy, this is fucking desperation. And you think they'll just stop at the bedroom? You just wait. They'll tax you for taking a dump. They'll find a way to tax you for the air that you breathe. Like, what the fuck is this country coming to?
Labour's new bedroom tax will tax you for any empty or spare bedrooms. It's disgusting. They want you to house the homeless and Labour's new arrivals or pay the tax.
Spare bedroom tax. What an absolute farce. These morons in the federal government now want to consider bringing in a spare bedroom tax. How does it work? Well, picture this. You've worked very hard in your life, you own your house, or perhaps you're still paying it off, and your children have moved out. So you find yourself with your wife or your partner living in a 3 to 4 bedroom house. The federal government is now saying, you don't need those extra rooms, so we're going to tax you on it. You might have your main bedroom and they'll come into your spare bedroom and say you're going to pay tax for this. And you also might be looking after your grandchild 2 nights a week because their parents need to work. Well, they don't care. They're going to come into this bedroom where a young baby sleeps 2 nights a week and say, you don't need this bedroom, we'll tax you for this too. Even though the federal government has created this cost of living crisis, which means both parents have to work and make a living. But these morons in the Federal Labor Party, these communist idiots, just don't care. The one thing you don't do, you don't put your hand in our pockets. People have had enough. We cannot let this slide. Stand up to the spare bedroom tax. These absolute morons shouldn't be in people's houses and in our lives.
Now, housing crisis in Australia is about to get a new twist. Now, here's the twist. Do you know that in Australia right now, if you own an extra bedroom, there is now a tax proposal called the spare bedroom tax to be taxed for those people who own a house or a home that has got spare bedroom. Now, this is after the housing crisis gets a new twist. Why? The Australian government is suggesting that if you own a home or a house that has spare bedroom, you'll have to downsize so that you can the Australian government can deal with the housing crisis. This is to say, if you have a family member of a family that consists of 3 family members, you'll need to have a 2-bedroom house. You don't need a 3-bedroom house or a 4-bedroom house. If you have a 4-bedroom house and you are only 2 family members, you will have to downsize so that you can give room for the people who have huge family members to come and occupy your home. And remember, this home or this house, you've worked for years to own it. And now you are being taxed for having an extra bedroom in your house. This is so diabolic, and they are calling that tax a spare bedroom tax. The Australians, the Aussies are really ranting on this one. They're saying of all the weird tax we've ever existed, that we ever seen in Australia, this will be the most weirdest tax to ever exist in Australia. You will just need to downsize. I mean, what the the Australian people are really ranting on this one. Check this out.
Before I start my day, here's my rant. The government, you can stick your spare bedroom tax right where it fits, because I'm not having people I don't know living in my spare rooms when I have children. My mother, who is elderly, certainly will not be having a stranger in her home either. Now, if you want to home these people, go ahead. How about you give up some of your super that you get early? Or how about some of your incentives that you get along the way for doing jack shit and nothing for any of us in Australia? So here's to your bedroom tax. Stick it up your butt, because it ain't happening in my house. And I'm sure it ain't happening in many Aussies' households either. So stop trying to ram us with your taxes and do something proper and be employed by us who pay your fucking wages and do something properly. Rant over. Probably made no sense. I haven't even finished my first coffee yet, but I'm done. Done with the government.
Are you having a laugh? Are you actually serious? The government have now announced in 6 weeks' time, oh my fucking God. In 6 weeks' time, if anyone's got a spare bedroom in their house, it's the right thing to do is to contact your local authority, let them know, and we will have to house the illegals. The king, not my fucking king, has also made an announcement that it's the right thing to do. It's the Christian thing to do. Christian my ass when he's turned to fucking Muslim, apparently. Anyway, yeah. So if you've got a spare house in your room, a spare room in your house, you have to give it up. You have to take these illegals in, and this will become law, by the way. And there will be a cash incentive. Although, guess what? The cash is not for you; it's for them. It's for the illegals. Yeah, it's obviously to make room to get them out of all the hotels now, isn't it? I suppose they're clutching at straws. Where are they all going to go? Yeah, so knuckle down, guys, or go into hiding. I certainly won't be giving up my spare rooms. Not a chance in hell. Go, yeah.
Now, this is communism right here. Who the hell thought of this spare bedroom tax? As if I can't have my own home and be taxed for rooms that I do not house any people in. That is not going to solve any issue with the housing crisis right now. I can't believe how dumb this policy would be if they actually went and implemented it. I can't. Are we getting that silly? Why don't we cut the waste in our spending before implementing crap like this? I'm sorry, it's just utter shit. This is the very reason why I always put my money in other assets that aren't controlled by faceless suits like this, and that's Bitcoin. Everything from my super to my personal stash doesn't reside with these corporate assholes.
Listen up, I just found out that the Australian government are now talking about bringing in a bedroom tax levy. Bedroom tax levy. So if you're in a home with 3 or 4 bedrooms, you are not occupying those bedrooms with family members or something like that, you are supposed to rent it out. So you're providing a home for somebody, but then hear me out. This is what happens. You rent your bedroom out to give someone a roof over their head, and then the government's going to put you in the capital gains tax bracket. Seriously, we cannot get ahead. The taxes in Australia are killing us right now. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Of course, there'll be tax repercussions with doing a side hustle. Probably there will be if you earn a certain amount of money. But honestly, for working 2 hours a day and making the money that you can make, this is better than going and getting a physical job. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this new bedroom tax levy. I think the Greens are talking about it, possibly going through to the Labor Party. I think Elbow agrees with it. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Labor refuses to rule out a spare bedroom tax. On August 26, 2025, Senator Sarah Henderson told the Senate that Labor won't explicitly rule out a new levy that could target underused rooms in Australian homes. She warned the government is leaving everything on the table when it comes to new revenue measures, even though the Prime Minister promised no new taxes before the 2028 election. Critics point to an economic reform roundtable where the idea surfaced, and say it risks hitting ordinary homeowners, especially given that over 60% of households are occupied by 1 or 2 people, while most homes have 3 or more bedrooms. Henderson also raised concerns about recent Victorian land tax changes that could force small home-based businesses to pay tax on their primary residence if they earn above certain thresholds. Labor's Treasurer has not ruled out new taxes in the next budget, creating a public debate about fairness, housing policy, and the cost of living. For many Australians already feeling financial pressure, the suggestion of a spare bedroom tax has sparked alarm and calls for clarity. Will the government commit to protecting family homes, or is a new tax really on the horizon?
Hello, I've just heard of this thing called spare bedroom tax, which the government is thinking of implementing. Now, I need to do some research on this because I haven't yet. I'm just going on TikTok, so I'll do my own research. But if they're going to implement it, does that mean that they, in their big, fancy, posh houses and where the Prime Minister lives, does that mean that they get to be taxed on their empty bedrooms that they might have for dignitaries, or just because they own these big, ginormous houses and, I don't know, they have 20 spare bedrooms? They can get taxed too, or are they exempt because they're Parliament? They better not be. And I think it's a load of crock, and I need to do some research.
If you've got a house that's got a spare bedroom in it, we should tax it. Or how about removing the capital gains tax discount from your owner-occupier property? When you sell it, you pay capital gains tax. Or how about a wealth tax, which consists of two things? We should scrap the capital gains tax discount when you own an asset for longer than 12 months. So you'll pay full freight capital gains tax, which would essentially be 47%. And then on top of that, if you've got net assets of over 5 million, let's tax you 2% per annum. And then fuck it, let's introduce an inheritance tax as well. So when someone's done well in life, they die, and someone inherits their money, we'll tax them. Now on top of that, if you're a retiree who's self-funded, you've done well in life and you don't rely on the government whatsoever, we'll fucking tax you. That was some of the garbage that come up at the Economic Reform Roundtable last week. And just so I'm clear, these proposals or ideas were not brought up by government officials or politicians. They were brought up by heads of universities, heads of institutes, these do-good academics. But from my point of view, the real reason this shit keeps getting brought up year in, year out, because the squeaky wheel gets the most attention. Which in layman's terms means the whinging pricks out there in Australia, or the world for that matter, create the most amount of issues because they are the most annoying and they constantly fucking whinge. And when there is a lot of whinges, that then puts pressure on politicians because politicians want to win votes. And to win votes, got to appeal to the whingers so they feel like they're getting a win. The reality of any of these new taxes coming in is very, very low. They're all just ideas. The people who would get behind them are the people who it doesn't affect right now. If you don't own a home that has spare bedrooms, then of course you're going to vote for something like that. Or if you don't own a home and you don't pay capital gains tax, obviously because you haven't got any wealth, then of course you're going to support things like that. The thing that I find so funny is all of these tax reforms are trying to fix the housing crisis. It's trying to get people into the market. It's trying to get people to become homeowners. And as soon as these whinging pricks become homeowners and they're in the market, they're then relying on the house that they live in to generate them wealth, all of a sudden, they won't want any changes to any of the tax system that affects housing because they're in the market, because then it affects them. Now, if all these whinging pricks just pulled their finger out, took responsibility of their own problems, and didn't push the blame for their problems onto someone else, they could be the solution to their own problem. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. Regardless of what tax comes in, the easiest way to not let it affect you is to just go make more money. Because the more money you make, the less you give a fuck about paying tax.
This is one of the most weirdest taxes the world have ever seen, right? Australia have ever seen. Like, it means the housing crisis is now involving everyone in Australia, especially everyone who is owning a home and that home or that house have got extra bedrooms. You will be involved, whether you like it or not. You will be the problem here. Why are you owning an extra bedroom? And people out there needs that same bedroom. You will be a victim. You will be captured in this housing crisis trap. you will be involved in this housing crisis bedroom, in this housing crisis. I mean, come on. I think the Australian government needs to do something about this, because owning a property is a personal will. If you own a 5-bedroom house, there is some specific reasons on why you are owning a 5-bedroom house. Maybe you have got a huge family members, and when they visit you, they'll need somewhere to sleep. They can't sleep in the living room. They can't sit in the dining area or in the balcony. They will need their own bedroom. And you can't share your bed or your bedroom with your mother, your father, or even your sisters. So you need to have their spare bedroom. A bedroom that the visitors will be sleeping in, even maybe your siblings, even maybe you are planning to get a huge family members. Even maybe your wife is pregnant, or you have a kid that you are currently sleeping in the same bedroom. But when this kid becomes a teenager, he or she will need a spare bedroom. So when people are planning to own a house or a home, they are planning for the future also. They are planning, you know what, in future, I will have a family. I will have a huge family. Maybe I'll need these spare bedrooms. But the Australian government doesn't want to, before proposing this spare bedroom tax, they should have sat down and thought about it and think about it, because people do plan. They just don't plan for today or tomorrow. They plan for the future. So taxing a spare bedroom is so diabolic. I mean, why would you tax a person for owning a spare bedroom? And they are also proposing that if you own that bedroom, a spare bedroom, you'll need to house a homeless person so that we can cope up with this housing crisis. But how? How am I supposed to go and get a homeless person who is not my relative and host him or her into my own spare bedroom? I mean, this spare bedroom is preserved for my family. So they're also proposing that if you own this spare bedroom, you'll need to downsize to go in. Maybe let's say you are owning a 3-bedroom house, and you only have, it is you, the wife, and maybe one kid. So you only need your bedroom and the kid's bedroom. Now, this spare bedroom, they don't want to know if you will be having visitors or not. They don't want to know if your family members will be visiting for Christmas or Easter or not. You'll just need to get a hotel room for them. But in the meantime, you don't need to own a spare bedroom. This is this housing crisis is getting too way out of hand for Australia. You can do better. Whoever proposed that bill, he can do better. This is one of the most weird. Tell me what you think, guys, in the comment section. Let's have a discussion about this. Australia, how is it going? Do you own an extra bedroom? Get prepared to be taxed unless or until you host a homeless person. Subscribe, guys, and see you in the next. Adios, Australia.